More details, surprising details about where Nasdaq CEO was on that day. Andrew, thanks so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, there's a lot of detail in that story that we ran today. Robert Greifeld, the head of Nasdaq, he was in California to ring the bell early in the morning California time. There were some problems matching up orders for the initial print when they set the offering price for the stock. That delayed things by about 30 minutes. He thought that once they got over that, everything was over. So he basically ran to the airport, got on this flight, and was stuck in business class for 5 hours without a phone. So there are all these problems with confirmations, people not knowing how much stock they had bought or sold or at what price. And he was totally in the dark about this. He was totally in the dark that the SEC was trying to reach him to make sure that they were on top of everything. So all those details hadn't been reported before. It's a great story.
Spencer, what do you make of this?
This is a great story. I just started reading it this morning. I think it shines a very important light on this stock exchange at a critical moment during its sort of when it was supposed to shine, when it was supposed to put its best foot forward, and they failed pretty miserably. And while he was out there, literally standing next to Mark Zuckerberg on stage, crowing about the offering, his exchange was having a meltdown.
That's right. And Andrew,
there's so many questions about this that have to be answered. The number one question is, what happened? They still haven't been able to explain why the stock exchange could not take orders and process orders and deliver order confirmations to the customers. And also, like, why wasn't he doesn't even have a cell phone? I was kind of struck by that. He couldn't speak.
Well, it sounds like he was in flight.
Well, I thought he was out of reach even when he was like on
right. Mary Shapiro was trying to call him, right? From what we understand. Andrew, Spencer brings up a really good point. Has there been any more light shed on exactly what went wrong that day?
I mean, there's some, not exactly. Apparently, they did a lot of testing before that Friday, just to make sure that their systems could handle the massive amounts of orders they were anticipating. And they said that those worked out fine, that they were able to process everything. And they still just don't know exactly what went wrong. Greifeld sort of kind of blames their tech people. He says, which is kind of obvious, I guess, but he says that they went ahead with it because their tech people gave the go-ahead and they follow what they say.
Now, at the same time, the Nasdaq has pledged, I believe, $40 million to help make up for some of what went wrong that day. Is it unusual to pledge that kind of money or compensation if we're not exactly sure what happened at this point?
It's very,
that's very controversial.
Yeah, and it's also, that number is being criticized by a lot of financial players or market participants who lost money as a result of this botched offering. I think until we figure out what happened here, the questions are going to linger. It kind of reminds people, and the story mentions this, of the flash crash. We've created this technology that's so seemingly sophisticated, and it fails us at these crucial times. And it happened during the flash crash. It happened in this situation. And I think for him to blame the engineers is just not right.
It's important to stress one thing.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to stress that it's reminiscent of the flash crash in that there's all this chaos. Now, I would just stress, though, that it's not, the Facebook IPO is not the flash crash. This incident was limited to one stock on one exchange. The flash crash was much broader than that. Still, there was a lot of chaos, and it's a huge black eye for Wall Street.
It's a huge black eye, and unfortunately it was one of the most highly anticipated IPOs in recent years, and so there's going to be a lot of attention on it. It's going to be very interesting to see how people react to this story, this idea that Greifeld was in fact in flight and unavailable when all this was going on. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and I encourage everybody to check out that story on page 1 of the Wall Street Journal today.